presentation. For those who don't know me, like she said, my name is Jarek Millburg. I am currently a junior here at HLGU studying for Bachelor's of Computer Information Systems. One of the classes required to take is internal internship when you're a junior, and that class has about, in my personal opinion, about 4 main parts of the class. One of them is the final formal presentation we give, which is why we're all here right now. The main reason behind this presentation is to kind of give an insight on the work that I did, my experiences, good and bad, over the course of the semester, whether it be with the work at OCS, the Office of Computer Services, or the work towards the individual project that I worked on during the semester. Like I said, there are 4 points in my opinion of this one. One was a presentation. The other one is a paper assignment for the internship, which is done at the end of the semester. The paper is same as the presentation, gives insight on experiences, good and bad, what you learned, all that stuff. It's pretty much the formal presentation in written format, supposed to be between 3 and 5 pages, and be able to be given to any random person who doesn't know anything about it, and they could understand what I did throughout the semester and the purpose behind it. Now the 2 main parts of the internship class that I believe is the work you actually put into the class, which is required 120 hours of work split among 2 items. The work shadowing, which is a minimum of 80 hours worked in OCS shadowing under one of the employees, and 40 hours spent on an individual project. The work I did in OCS, when the semester first started, I actually started shadowing under Justin Martin, who about halfway through the semester turned in his 2 weeks because he got hired at a new position at a different facility. I don't remember where he went, but after that change, I started working more under Jeremy, and my workload kind of shifted a little bit. When I was working with Justin, he kind of had some things already planned out when I came in. Could be fix this computer that's back there, make some wires, stuff like that. When I started working with Jeremy, he got me onto the ticket system where when teachers can submit tickets for problems in their classrooms, stuff that their department needs done, Jeremy would pass tickets on to me that he felt I had the skill set to finish and close out, and that would be my majority of my work day. I would come in and log on to the ticket system and start down a list of oldest tickets and start closing them out. Throughout the semester, those 80 hours, it was a new experience for me. I've done a couple internships. My most recent internship a couple years ago was for State Farm, and there I was pretty much just a desk worker inputting data or testing software. Here it was definitely a different type of internship. It was more like a help desk type internship where you were filling out tickets or answering questions. You were just doing anything that the school needed help with when it came to computers. So that was definitely a good experience. I definitely enjoyed doing that. It was fun to learn not only what it was like kind of a help desk side, but also kind of what work's like when it comes to working in computers at a school versus at a major company, the different kind of systems they use, software-wise, how they manage their stuff. It was definitely different logging all my hours on a spreadsheet instead of in a system for pay. But I'm going to try not to stutter. That pretty much was the gist of the internal internship throughout the semester. We had met in the beginning of the semester. All these students who were interning this year met with both Dr. Nelson and Mrs. Todd, head of the computer department, and with all 3 members, 3 then, 2 now, Jeremy, Justin, and I feel really bad now because I haven't talked to him in a while and I forgot his name. I'm sorry. Carrie. I'm sorry. Met with all of us to discuss when each student would do their hours and all that, because it was not in the best interest to have all the students working at once. It would be tough enough to have everybody in the area down there working at the office and finding enough work in one day for everybody to work on. So we had decided I would work mainly Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So those were the days I came into work after classes, and for the most part, some days I would be off my own, just doing tickets, go to them for questions, go to them when I need to find something, or days when I'd work close with them, going with them to different locations, working on stuff in offices and other items like that. Those were the 80 hours I spent on my internal internship shadowing. Yeah, noise. The 40 hours I spent on my internship project, in the beginning, it actually took probably a month or so to actually finalize the idea behind my project. Initially, I had talked with Justin when he was still here about a project idea he had, but then when he left, that kind of got trashed. I had talked with Jeremy about one idea of like a calendar web application, and ended up not really knowing what to do with that. So I ended up coming with the idea of what I actually did, which was a website to actually store all the information that a student actually does during their internship instead of on paper, like we usually do. I actually came up with the idea for this website when the semester first started, when I found out I had to store all the hours I was going to be working, and having just finished building a website last semester with a database, I thought I would just build a very simple looking website to store my own log hours, because I don't know, I like web development. But taking that idea, I then later met with Dr. Nelson and Mrs. Todd and suggested the idea, and we took that idea and expanded on it to decide what overall the site would need to have built into it to really incorporate the requirements for the project. Will it give the 40 hours of work? Will it be beneficial to the department in any way? Stuff like that. So in the end, the overall use of the website was, the main use was to store the logged hours of the students, which I'm currently logged in. Each student has their own profile they can log into, and they can log their hours on a simple form, determining what type of internship work they're doing, whether it's their internal hours, their external hours, or their project. Write a description, and it just saves it straight to a database and populates the table. That was the main idea behind the initial idea of the website. Added onto that, we discussed the forms, which you all have a couple of the evaluation forms in front of you, the product evaluation. Taking all the 6 different forms, the self-evaluation, the checklist, the presentation, project, paper, and allowing those to be filled out on the site as well, instead of using all the paper. And I thought it was a good idea, because take the paper out of the equation, use less paper, it's all digital now. That's what the world's coming to anyway. So we built into the site the functionality of filling out each form with the values, along with a comment section at the end for whatever student you're currently watching. Once those forms are submitted, though, they aren't officially seeable yet, as the administrator has to approve of every form submitted. That way we don't get a lot of random forms from anybody randomly coming onto the site and just submitting forms for no reason. Any form submitted goes to the teacher or the head of the department, whoever is the administrator first, who can actually view the, and these are random forms I just put random values into just for testing purposes. Like I did a simple project evaluation 1 for Trevor's. This person gave these values for these statements with good presentation and project. From here, the teacher can actually submit those to the student, which will allow the student to then view the form as well, see the comments back from it, and learn from it, just as we would, after the presentation, receive your written forms to learn from. And if they're ones that, let's say this person did this presentation forever ago, and we can obviously tell this is just a random form someone submitted, they can just be deleted straight from the database and it's gone. So kind of some workarounds in there to stop unneeded information and to allow information to be seen by both the administrator and the students as well. Like I said earlier, each student has their own profile page, which I put in about 8 students that have either been here or are currently here for testing purposes. Each page right now currently would have a picture. I don't have any pictures in the database. Right now it shows their current year they're in school, whether they're actively working on an internship, whether they haven't started one yet, or if they've completed one. And it will have a little area where you can describe a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, all that. Some functionality I haven't put into this yet is the ability to upload other images besides yourself. If you're working on a project, upload some images of the project for people to see more information about the individual project you're working on. That way anybody who wants to learn about it can come to the profile page and see what the student's been working on and learn about it. Log back in. When a student logs in, they actually have an accessibility to edit their profile. Right now, this just has the editing of the About Me section. Something else I'm currently working on, which this one's on my local server. I haven't pushed this code up yet, because I'm still making it, is the ability to change their email address for the login, ability to change their password. That way, only the student knows their password, because it's set differently in the database. I'm still editing the validation rules on there so it always will work and won't throw any errors. But with the submitted forms, I use the same kind of table on all these things. When a teacher submits them on to a student to be able to view, they can view their forms like I showed you earlier. That is honestly all the website really does. This is not near completion. It's near completion, it's not quite there. I'm going to be working all through the summer, a few more functionality purposes, a few more things going in there, and just tweaking the looks of it, make it look really nice, but then we'll have it ready for next year, so next year's interns could be the first ones to really use it to the full capability of it and see if we can get this process off of paper. That in all is the work I put towards this internship in the semester and throughout the work and the project paper presentation. Are there any questions?
What kind of platform did you use to build this, and what does that look like?
The platform I used to build the website is a front-end framework called Bootstrap, which we're actually currently learning about in our web development class, which is why I chose to use it. I saw it as a chance to learn more from it even outside the class and further my skills in using it. For the back end, same thing with the class, we're using Laravel as a back-end framework, and I decided to use that as well so I can again learn more than what we're learning in class, incorporate what I'm doing in class, and just get better skills and more used to using it since it's a popular one used in the workforce.
So is it something you click and drag those parts around, or what does it look like?
There is no dragging around. It is all code, which is a lot.
So you're saying you did that?
Yes, all this here is my code. There are built-in functions, which you can use by putting in special lines of code, but there was no drag and drop GUI system like you would do with Dreamweaver. You could just drop a button in or something. This one required all hands on coding. It was just some frameworks that I could throw in ahead of it to give me the initial layout and make it easier to work with. Yes.
So, was the development of the website motivated by you? This was your idea, or was it the IT, they wanted something?
Initially, I wanted a site that I could use. Initially, was just so I could log my hours in it, and I was going to make it usable so if like another student was doing it, they could just put their log as hours. Easier than using a spreadsheet when it comes to holding it, and then turn around with the proposal for actually making it my project, and it added in all the other functionality with the forms, the profiles, and everything else to make it more incorporate the entire process of the internship.
And just as, I think he tried to explain this earlier, but every intern has to do a 40-hour or more project. So together, we sit and we try to find something we feel like would be a win-win, either their skills, and we give the students an opportunity to have input into that. So when we had a conversation, then he brought this back as an idea of how we could, and then we fleshed it out a little more, or made some goals. We didn't really flesh it out, he's doing that part, but we made the goals of what we expected it to be in the amount of time, and then some of the features have continued to develop, because as any web project, I don't know if you're ever done with a web project, but
So, are you able to export the results of the logs into like a CSV or Excel file?
Currently, no, but it is doable. I just have to go and grab another plugin. What I use for those tables is actually a plugin called Data Tables, which plugs in with CSS and jQuery that just made it look all nice and made it filterable. I don't think I showed that, but you can actually filter these by, let's say, the date of the log, by descending or ascending, the total hours of that one, and you can even search by log type, or you can even search by numbers, values, or anything else. If it finds it anywhere in the description, all the way to the name, it's gonna pull it up. All that was a plugin offline, and there is another plugin addition to this for extension that will allow exporting and printing and all that. I just haven't incorporated that into it yet.
where is this hosted?
This whole site itself, the whole site is hosted on the CIS department's Linode server that we own a spot on. And my goal is, when it's finished, to get the actual URL switched around so it's just on the actual CIS website and not on my side of it. That way it's easier to find. And
So in the work side of your internship, the 80 hours, did you find it to be advantageous or disadvantageous to lose Justin halfway through? Was two perspectives helpful, or was it kind of?
I think two's perspectives were helpful to see, because they both did work kind of differently, and they both did their work days differently. It was difficult in the beginning, because when Justin left, one thing that started to change was some of the software got switched over to something new that they started to switch over. So what I had learned at the beginning of the semester, I kind of had to relearn a different system for some of the stuff I was doing halfway through. So it was difficult in the beginning to learn the new stuff that what I had already gotten accustomed to doing. But it was also advantageous because it also gave me a chance to again learn more than I was already learning, and learning what else is out there to use.
In what areas do you think you were impacted the most through this internship experience?
Could you elaborate on that question?
What new skills do you think, or was it a really great experience, so you have positive things to say? Was it a really terrible experience, you have negative things to say? How were you most impacted? What were you?
It was definitely a positive experience. Even though some days bad things happen, some things don't work and all that, overall it was a great experience, because you learn from those bad things just as much as you learn from getting stuff to work in the good days. And
Were you surprised by any particular skill you picked up or needed? What were your skill set?
I don't think I was really surprised on any skill set that I may have picked up during it. It was useful though to pick up the different skills that I didn't have, which was kind of the re-imaging the computers that OCS does so often when a computer fails. And especially learning how to do that two different ways, because that was one of the systems we switched around halfway through the semester. So I don't think I was surprised by anything new that I learned, but it was definitely a good experience and I enjoyed learning it.
And how would you evaluate Hannibal-LaGrange status technologically? Are we in good shape? Are there massive needs, and if so, what needs do you see?
I think overall the school is in good shape when it comes technology wise. There's always ways of advancing and getting more technology, but that's hard to come with a smaller type school that we have, smaller budgets, smaller systems. It's not like we're not like Yale and all that, where they can have all this hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw out on new technology. I think for the school we have really great systems, and internet and all that for what we have to work with.
Should all computer students have to go through these kinds of experience, an internship experience?
Yep.
What would you say the biggest difference, like, from the classrooms, like, working through the classes that you've taken so far, the things that you learn in those, and then actually applying some of those things in the real world? How would you compare those two things?
They're definitely different. No matter what you learn in the classroom, when it comes to actually incorporating it in the real world, when it's like all of a sudden this isn't working and you gotta know how to do it, it's definitely difficult to pull on old knowledge from classes you may have taken a year and a half ago. Because even in that short amount of time, what you learn may even be obsolete at that point. So it's difficult to go from a classroom setting to the real world when it comes to working, whether it be in programming or hardware or networking, because everything changes so often.
Jarek, you said that your project isn't done, but you plan to work some this summer to get it ready for next fall. What could you have done during your 40 hours of project development that might have gotten you further along?
What definitely slowed me down during the course of the semester working on this was I was using the frameworks that we were using in class, so some of the functionality that I wanted to incorporate was being halted because I needed something else working first so it would work, and those few points every now and then would be something that we're just getting to in class to learn about, and I was still waiting to figure it out in class to incorporate it in, so I definitely felt slowed down by using frameworks that I didn't really know very well and we're currently learning.
So you learned about those things.
I learned about them. I think if I would have done things differently if there was a framework that I already knew how to use and all that, back end and front end, it would have gone much faster. I think I chose a slower route, but I think in the long run it's a better route because I think functionality wise and visually the way it looks is going to come out much better using these frameworks than if I would have done it all by hand or something like that. And yes, I will be working on this plenty throughout the summer to add in more stuff and make it look better.
Do you believe, I'm sorry,
Nope.
do you believe you've met all the original goals that were stated for the project?
I believe I have met everything required for the project except maybe the one requirement that the project isn't finished.
Well, I know, but I thought we wrote out the goals that declared what
I mean,
would count as finished.
It's not so much that it's not finished, it's that it may not be completely doing everything you
Right,
want
because
in the
there's more
future.
features as we talk,
Yeah.
it seems like, and then you get excited and say, well, we could do this, and I say, sure, we could do this, and sure. And
There is.
so when we first set up the goals on what was required,
Mhm.
do you believe you've met all of those? I'll go back and look at the statement.
I have not. I actually right now think of one thing that I have not incorporated in that we did originally talk about, and that was the ability for students to upload images and documentations about their work. That portion I have not incorporated into the
We did talk
website
about
yet.
the administrative side, and a place for them to record, and a place for them to have their own profile, and a place to track their hours. So most all of the goals have been met from the original standpoint. So the project's not finished, I don't think, because I don't know if it will be ever.
They
Websites
are.
are never done.
So as far as the database backend, what are you using for the database?
All the
Server.
data is being stored in a MySQL database.
And is that also hosted on that site, or are you running that locally, or?
We also have a MySQL database hosted live on our server connected using PHP MyAdmin.
And that's in the same,
Yes,
Same
we-
hosting
we
company
load-
that-
No, we loaded it all. All we got was a Linux box and a Linode company, and we loaded everything on there that we wanted.
okay, so you have full control of a virtual server, okay.
We did.
And then, so another thing, I was curious just why you chose the public part of the path there. Is is there a different section of the website that's,
The public part of that address is put in there from the frameworks I'm using. The Laravel and Composer frameworks for the backend puts a lot of the files in there already, and the routes that it uses to find all the files and views and all that pulls from the public folders. So that's just part of the URL that is from the framework.
did you do anything with URL rewrites or, you know, as far as configuring the routes any differently? I've used Laravel just a tiny bit, just because I heard a lot of the students using it, but, do you have to configure the routes manually?
Yeah, I have one route page that configures all the different routes from each page, depending on what's submitted.
I don't think you can see that. Can you make
Yeah,
it
that's-
larger? I don't think there's any
Yeah,
hope we
yeah.
can see that, yeah.
Yeah, that's, okay. Did you work at all with any resource routing?
There's one plugin routing system that we use for our authentication when it comes to logging in, and it's a Laravel function using the controllers, and it just pulls in a lot of different preset routes that you can't see from here.
Are you pleased with your site?
I am actually really pleased with that site. I would say not yet, but when I feel like it's closer to being done, it may be the one site that I actually feel confident enough to put on a resume.
And how much web knowledge did you come to college with?
HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Limited. I had built a couple sites before coming to college. The one, I didn't actually show you guys this, there is the administrative side for the admin, which is from a system called Frozen Node, which is a plugin to Bootstrap and Laravel. Frozen Node's their own thing, but it incorporates into it. This is a site that only the admin can get to, where she can view all these students in the database, the information that goes on the student's profile, and the different forms that are accessible. The 6 different forms, along with the different questions on each field and the field type it uses, whether it be those checkboxes or it's a text field or something like that. This is so later down the road, if these forms ever change, and they add a question in, change a question, it can be added or edited in here, and it'll automatically edit the field on the website. You don't need to go into the code at all. No, you shouldn't ever have to go into the code at all unless you want to add a brand new whole page to the website or something breaks.
So Jarek, do you feel like once you roll off the scene, is this a website someone else can maintain and use, and keep current?
I do. I've done a little bit. I've added comments to my code for someone else so they can understand what I'm doing with each section of my code. And I'm going to continue to do that to all my code that I've actually done. Anything that I didn't touch, which is pre-built with the framework, I'm not going to comment because they usually have their own commenting systems in there. And I do believe in the end this is something that can be passed on to another student that I believe actually has some web knowledge and interest in web development, can maintain and keep passing from student to student. So it's always being maintained by somebody.
And it does have this administrative side where things like changing questions on the forms and so forth, you know.
Adding new students.
I'll be doing that, and I don't have to go into the code if I didn't want to.
She wants to add new student. Some new student gets the internship portion. She can just add new students straight to the database. And when they do this, it automatically builds their profile form. So there shouldn't be any reason to ever go into code unless something breaks or something needs to get updated. Any more questions? Well, again, I'd like to thank you all for coming to our presentation. Have a great day.
Yes,